کرب و بلا اجڑا مدینہ برباد ہوئی. ایک دن تھا کہ چادر سر سے گری تھی، سورج بھی نہ نکلا، سر ننگے پھرا تھا ہے مجھے آج کمینہ، برباد ہوئی. ایک دن تھا کہ اس شہر کی کرتی تھی میں شاہی، اور آج تباہی. بے غسل پڑا مہر نبوت کا نگینہ، برباد ہوئی. بھائی ہوئے بیٹے زندہ میں پھنسے وارث نہیں کوئی، عباس نہیں جیتے نہیں شاہ مدینہ، برباد ہوئی. یہ نیل تماچوں میرے منہ پہ پڑے ہیں، میں کس کو دکھاؤں، نیزے کے تلے بیٹھ کے روتی ہے سکینہ، برباد ہوئی. قاسم نہیں، اکبر نہیں، عباس نہیں ہے، عابد ہے تو بھی یہ کیسا پڑا محرم کا مہینہ، برباد ہوئی. صلو علی النبی.
Just a couple of quick announcements, inshallah, before we start the program for tonight. I'd like to, would like as a community to take this opportunity to formally introduce Sheikh Murtaza Bachoo. For those of us who had the opportunity to listen to him tonight for several nights,
we all know that Sheikh Murtaza has been inspiring to the community, and we wanted to wait till tonight when we had a larger crowd to be able to introduce him. So with this, I'll say a few words about Sheikh. He asked me to feel free with the descriptions and to give him more credit than he's due, but he deserves everything that I say. So Sheikh Murtaza, for many of you that may know, was born and raised in Dar es Salaam in East Africa. At the age of 13, the family, including himself, moved to Vancouver, where he's been residing since the age of 13. He has a degree in electrical engineering, actually, and after working in the electrical engineering field for about a year, him and his wife both decided that they really wanted to get some more spiritual guidance and spiritual insight, and so they decided to move to Qom, where what was initially just a one-year experiment in learning, just about really bettering and improving themselves, turned into a 4-year study and stay in Qom. And he returned to Vancouver after that, and he now, for the last 6 years, actually serves as the spiritual consultant at the Az-Zahra Islamic Society, Islamic Center in Vancouver. And he is also a guide to multiple other communities there, and he provides a lot of guidance to the youth as well as to all the Shia communities that are in Vancouver. He also frequently represents Shia Islam and Islam in the media, and serves as an expert in Islamic views in the media. On a personal note, Sheikh is married and has 2 lovely daughters, ages 9 and 4. And in his free time, which he says he doesn't really have too much, but he likes to go hiking and play soccer. So, Sheikh, we really welcome you to the center. We're very happy and excited to have you here. Over the last 6 or 7 majalis, you've really blessed us, and we've learned quite a bit from you, and feel like we've all grown significantly. So thank you for that, and inshallah, we'll see more of you at our center, inshallah. I also would, as a community, like to take this opportunity to thank Brother Murtaza, who has graciously hosted the Sheikh since his arrival, and so thank you, Brother Murtaza. Brother Murtaza has an extra bedroom in case anybody needs to, a staycation. So, with that, I also want to move into a couple of other announcements. You've seen programs such as the ones that were Sheikh Murtaza. This afternoon, this evening, we actually hosted a program with both Sheikh Ja'far and Sheikh Murtaza. There was a dialogue, and we had quite a great attendance. It was a really well-moderated session, and we had a lot of participation, some very good dialogue. So as a committee and as a community, we're trying very hard to move into a different area within programming, and just to get more interest and more participation. You remember several months ago during the month of Ramadan, we met and we talked about all the things that we needed to do as a community. When we were having iftar, unfortunately we had termites and bugs. We fixed that problem. We tented the entire center. We made sure that all those problems were taken care of, so we don't have anything of that nature. We had lots of cracks in our parking lot where we had some minor accidents with kids falling and hurting themselves. We fixed those cracks. There's no longer those cracks. We repaved the entire parking lot. We repainted the front, as you can see. We redid the classrooms in the madrasa. Our students now have much better classrooms that are accessible and easy to use. Our water heater broke on us right in the middle of everything. We had to replace that, so we've done that. If you recall, our entire AV system fell apart on us, right? There was a day when we were trying to have a majlis and the sound and the microphones weren't working, so we had to replace all of our speakers. On the ladies' side, the picture and the sound really does not come through well. We fixed that issue. We have a new camera in place. We have new sound in place. Inshallah, all that was taken care of. We also now upgraded our technology, our internet system. We are live streaming all the majalis. Sheikh Murtaza is being watched all across the world, and we receive comments about your lectures every night. So provide that service for a lot of our community members locally who can attend, and outside of this area as well. All that, as you know, requires your support, requires support from the community. We currently are praying and giving du'as to a lot of our vendors, but they're not accepting that as a form of payment. So we really are asking you guys to reach deep into your hearts. And we really hope that you can support us in this cause. As you know, all by itself, these things don't happen. The committee and the community members are working extremely hard behind the scenes, day and night, to make all this happen. So we really appreciate your support. So to make things easier, we have donation boxes that are going to come around. They will come around. We also have brothers sitting outside on this side and sister on the other side. They can accept your donation in the form of a check, and even in the form of a credit card. We have square readers that we can use. We also have a text donation campaign if you would rather do it that way, or we can take cash or check as well. So please dig deep into your hearts on these nights of remembrance of Imam Hussein. We really hope that you can help us, and we will continue to provide these programs. So I'll stop there, inshallah. All of us get the message, and we'll all help each other out. A couple of quick other announcements. Tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. at the Melrose Abbey Qabristan, we have a majlis for ladies and gents. Sheikh Murtaza Bachoo will be there as well. So if you are available, 10:30 in the morning at the Qabristan at Melrose Abbey, that's in Anaheim, and Sheikh Murtaza will be there as well. One last announcement we have. Sheikh Hamid Mawani is here and graced his presence today, and he has asked me to share with everybody a new translation and contemporary commentary on the 30th Sipara of the Quran that Sheikh Hamid himself has edited, and the commentary is provided by Abdul Ali Bazargan, and the book, the commentary, the 30th Sipara is now ready and available, and it is on sale for $30, but tonight we have several copies and they've been subsidized, and they're for $20. So if anybody's interested, they are going to be outside on the table. So with that, let's recite a short dua shifa for the Maris and for all those in need. And after that, we'll welcome Sheikh Murtaza. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. 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 Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. With a loud salawat, we will welcome Sheikh Murtaza Bachoo. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, salawat.
Before we begin, can I request our brothers to come forward so that later when people are joining us, we have space behind. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. We begin by sending our salams to Aba Abdullah al-Hussein and the companions of Imam al-Hussein, and I ask you to join me in the recitation. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Earlier this week we had said that the Quran demands moral development from us. And this is known as tazkiyah in the Quran. And we say that self-purification is a journey according to the Quran. Whenever we reach a stage of purification, the Quran demands a higher stage of purification from us. We also said yesterday that the human capacity is an amazing capacity. The human capacity to understand reality and to distinguish right and wrong, the human capacity for self-development is even greater than the angelic capacity. We also said yesterday that self-development or self-purification is a two-step process. In the first process, in the first step, we have to remove all the negative characteristics that we have. Pride and jealousy and envy, these have to be removed from our hearts. And these are known as radha'il, negative characteristics. In the second part of the process, we now have to start developing positive attributes within ourselves. And these were the very attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be compassionate, to be kind, to be generous, to be forgiving, to be protective, to provide peace, to be a channel through which God creates life and preserves life as well. Then yesterday I left you with a question to think about. And that is the question that I want to start with today. And we're going to start by simplifying the question. The question goes as follows. When I perform a good act, when I do a moral act, how do I know that that action is emanating from my character or it is emanating from ulterior motives? How do I distinguish what is just my behavior and what is not just my behavior, but it is also my character as well? For example, let us say somebody comes to you from an organization and says that we would like you to donate to this project. And we will give you a tax receipt if you donate to this project. And you say to them that I'm not interested in donating to your project. So they say to you that if you donate to the project, we will put on our website that Mr. So-and-so has donated towards this project. And you say that I'm still not convinced that I should be donating towards your cause. And then he says to you that, well, if you donate, we will give you a position within our board. And you say, well, now you're talking. And you donate. And you donate generously. Now my question to you is this. Is that an act of generosity? The answer is yes, it is an act of generosity. Am I a generous person? Well, that remains to be seen. Because the question is that does the generosity come from my character or is it coming from an ulterior motive? Now, that's the question that we want to look at today. And we're going to be looking at three questions in particular. The first question that we will look at today is to ask ourselves that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aware of the character that I will be developing in my life? Is God aware of whether I am going to be eventually a good person or I am not going to be a good person? If you say that God is aware or if you say that God is not aware of whether I will be a good person until the end of my life or I will not be a good person, then, well, we know God is all-knowing. And that would go against His attributes. And if you say that God is aware and He knows whether I am going to find salvation at the end of my life or I am not going to find salvation at the end of my life, then the question that arises over here, then what role does my free will have to play? Why should I struggle? Why should I strive? Because no matter how much I struggle and no matter how much I strive, I have to end up the way God knows I am going to end up. That's the first question. The second question that we have is when and how can we know that we have achieved salvation? Does there ever come a point in our life where we can sigh a breath of relief and we say to ourselves that we have reached the finish line and we have been able to achieve salvation and now we know in our life that we have the character that it takes for me to enter paradise? And the third question that we have for tonight is, how do we gauge our character? How do we take a pulse of our character and come to know whether something is only a part of our behavior or that action is also now a part of our character? So we have a long line ahead of us, and we have quite a few discussions to go through. So I'd like to start first with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So is God aware of our character or not? And does He know that whether we are going to be attaining salvation or not? Because there are many verses in the Quran, or perhaps many riwayat, that states that God is aware whether a person is going to be shaqi, is going to be wretched at the end of his life, or he's going to be sa'id, is going to be successful at the end of his life. God is aware whether a person will go to paradise or a person will go to hellfire. Is that true or not? And the scholars say yes. God is aware of our destiny. But then they explain. This explanation is important. They explain and they say that God's knowledge does not have a causal effect. Just because God knows that I am going to be successful, or I will not be able to develop these morals and these qualities, does not mean now that I have no choice but to develop these morals, or I have no choice but to not develop these morals. One of our great scholars was Haji Nasiruddin Tusi. And he said that God knows whether his servant is going to perform a good deed or his servant is not going to perform a good deed. But his knowledge does not have a causal effect. His knowledge has an informative effect. It only unveils what the servant is going to do. Now let me simplify that with an example. Let's say that you're standing on top of a building and you're looking down at the traffic that's below you. And you can see the traffic really well. And you can see the traffic patterns as well. And you generally know the people who are driving the car. And you see that your friend is also driving the car. And you know what his driving patterns are. And after a while you come to realize that in the next 10 seconds he will be in an accident. Because you can see the scene in front of you. And you know the driving patterns as well. So you know with certainty, in the next 10 seconds, an accident is going to happen. And after 10 seconds, what happens? An accident happens. Now let me ask you a question. Just because you knew that an accident was going to happen, does it mean that your knowledge forced your friend to go into an accident? Does it mean now that it is your fault that he got into an accident? Does it mean that, for example, you stripped him of his free will just because he got into just because you knew that he was going to get into an accident? No, it does not. Just because God knows what we're going to do does not mean that it's forcing us to do those things. Now you'll say, wait a minute. We don't just believe that God knows what we're going to do. We also believe in predestination, that God has destined what is going to happen in our lives. And this is known as the concept of qada and qadar. God has destined what is going to happen. So hasn't God destined whether I am going to be successful and I am going to develop these morals, or I am not going to be successful and I am not going to be developing these morals? Now tonight, I don't want to go over a whole discussion on predestination and free will. But I do want to discuss with you as it pertains to our discussions. Shaheed Murtaza Mutahhari, he says, let us reassess our understanding of predestination. When we talk about and we say that God has destined something, well, what exactly does that mean for us? He says, if you mean to say that when God has destined something, and He has destined my life, whether I am going to be successful or I am not going to be successful, it means that that is going to happen in my life, whether I like it or not, whether I choose it or not, whether I want it or not, whether I pray for it or not. Then Shaheed Mutahhari says, we don't have such a concept within Islam. Such an understanding of predestination simply does not exist within our faith. In fact, the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says that many prophets prayed for the mercy of God to be kept away from the Qadariyah. And somebody asked him, Ya Rasulullah, وَمَا الْقَدَرِيَّةِ? Who are the Qadariyah? And he said that these are a group of people who think that God forces them to do a good deed or a bad deed in this case. God forces them to act in a negative way, and then God punishes them for it as well. Then Shaheed Mutahari said, we can have another understanding of predestination, which factors human free will, where he says that God has destined that a human being will have free will, and that his success or his failure will depend on the choices that he makes in his life. And if he chooses that he wants to be successful, then he will be successful. That is what God has destined for him. And if he chooses that he does not want to develop himself morally, then he will not do that, because that is what has been destined for him. Now again, the concept itself may be a little bit difficult to understand, so let me simplify it a bit. Let's go to the night of Qadr. On the night of Qadr, we all gather at the center, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we are told that whatever is going to happen in the coming year, it has been destined on the night of Qadr. The word Qadr itself means measurement. Qadr means to make something particular. And we believe on the night of Qadr, whatever is going to happen in the coming year will be made particular by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether a person will have a child or not, whether they will get married or not, whether they will migrate or not, that is destined on the night of Qadr. So you come on the night of Qadr and you pray over it. Now I ask you, throughout the year, do you also make dua or not? You will say, indeed, throughout the year we also make dua. Then I ask you, what effect is that dua going to have if everything has already been destined on the night of Qadr? What's going to happen is going to happen. Why are you praying for it to change? And you will say there is a hadith that tells us that even what has been destined can change if you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then I say to you, then the night of Qadr is not also important, is it now? Even if I didn't make it on the night of Qadr and something else was destined, I can still make a dua in another day of the year and that destiny will change. And that's not the case. So what has been destined on the night of Qadr is that, for example, this person will be successful, this person will be able to get married, for example, if during the year he prays to Allah. If during the year he performs acts of goodness, if during the year he exerts efforts to be able to achieve his goal. Therefore, the scholars say God's destiny is conditional. He says that we are going to be successful on the condition that we exert effort. And therefore Allah says in the Quran, وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. A human being will not acquire anything in life except that which he aspires for, that which he endeavors for. If a person works towards his moral development, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help him in that. And if a person does not endeavor towards it, well then he has no one to blame but himself. Which brings us to our second question for today. If you recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Then the second question we ask, does there ever come a point in our life where we can breathe a sigh of relief and we can say to ourselves that we have achieved salvation, that we are now confident that we are going to be entering paradise and we have reached the finishing line? Now, I often get this question from my Christian friends. And they often ask me that at what point in your faith can you be confident that you have achieved salvation? For them, it's a very important question. And it's an important question because of their theology. So my understanding of their theology is that a human being is born in sin, and he naturally inclines towards committing sins. This is because of the original sin committed, according to them, by Prophet Adam. They also believe that a human being does not have the capacity to redeem himself. By himself, a human being cannot attain salvation. Therefore, they believe that God sent His Son in the person of Jesus Christ, according to Christian theology, to come and sacrifice His life and to save the rest of humanity, to save the rest of humanity from their sins. And therefore, they believe that the moment you believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, that you will achieve salvation. Therefore, they have this confidence within themselves that now that they have become Christians and they have accepted Jesus into their lives, that they will now be entering paradise or they will acquire salvation. And they ask that what is that belief that you need to have? What is that doctrine that you need to adopt? But the moment you have adopted it, you can also feel confident and breathe a sigh of relief that you have achieved salvation. And the answer I give them is something that they struggle with. And sometimes it has taken us an hour for them to be able to understand. Because I say to them that for a Muslim, he is not allowed to ever feel confident and certain, ever in his life, that he has certainly achieved salvation. That he will be certainly entering paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Worship your Lord and strive towards Him until you attain certainty. According to most mufassirin of the Quran, here certainty refers to
death. The moment of death brings about the moment of certainty. So I say to them, as a Muslim, I am expected to live between hope and fear. Hope that God is going to forgive me and accept me, and the fear that He may punish me and He may not accept my good deeds. And this comes to us from the ahadith. There's a very beautiful hadith from the sixth holy Imam, Al-Imam As-Sadiq alayhi afdal as-salati was-salam. Where somebody asked him, مَا كَانَ فِي وَصِيَّتِي لُقْمَانَ? What was written in the wasiyyah of Luqman? The Imam said to him that there were amazing statements in the wasiyyah of Luqman. Amongst the most amazing statements that he said to his son is he said to his son, خَفِ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ خِيفَةً لَوْ جِئْتَهُ بِبِرِّ الثَّقَلَيْنِ لَعَذَّبَكَ. Fear God to such an extent that even if you were to bring to Him the good deeds of all human beings and the good deeds of all the jinn, so jinn also perform good deeds. Jinn have the same purpose in life that we have in life. Jinn are meant to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just as we are supposed to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Luqman says to his son that fear God so much that even if you were to bring to Him all the good deeds of human beings and the jinn put together, that He may still punish you. Now I'll explain this before we get worried about it. Then the Imam says, وَرْجَ اللَّهَ رَجَاءً لَوْ جِئْتَهُ بِذُنُوبِ الثَّقَلَيْنِ لَرَحِمَكَ. And have so much hope in God that even if you were to bring to Him all the bad deeds of human beings and the jinn put together, He may still have mercy upon you. He may still accept your repentance. He may still place you into paradise. And then the Imam says that my father used to say, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ عَبْدٍ مُؤْمِنٍ إِلَّا وَفِي قَلْبِهِ نُورًا. A believer, there cannot be a believer except in his heart there must be two lights. نُورُ رَجَاءٍ وَنُورُ خِيفَةٍ. The light of hope and the light of fear. And the intensity of neither light is more than the other. Meaning what? Meaning in life I should be so hopeful that even if I have committed sins, no matter how many sins I have committed, as long as I can be sincere to God and I can seek repentance from God and I can be genuine in my repentance, that God will forgive me. And I should fear God so much that before I commit a sin, I should remind myself that it may be that I may have performed a lot of good deeds. And on the day of judgment, God may start questioning the sincerity of my deeds. He may question the efforts that I put behind those deeds and say to me that it doesn't meet the standards of perfection. But a believer must never be complacent. In this journey of self-refinement, complacency has absolutely no place. A person can never let his guard down. Because the moment we let our guard down, that is when shaitan takes advantage of us. One of the greatest prophets that we had, imagine this for a moment, was Prophet Yusuf. And the whole surah has been dedicated to the story of Prophet Yusuf. And the Quran tells us about his struggles, and the challenges that he faced, and the immoral situations that he faced, where he had a choice to make between morality and immorality. And he chose to be moral. Whether it was the time when his brothers put him in the well, or the time when he was with Zulaykha, or later on when he was in the prison, or later on when he became the Aziz of Misr, or he became the minister in Misr. And then towards the end of his life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers his family for him. And they are there together. And at that moment, he makes a beautiful dua. Listen to the dua of Prophet Yusuf. He says, Rabbi, my Lord, tawaffani musliman wa alhiqni bis-salihin. I pray to you that you give me the tawfiq to die as a Muslim. Even he is not complacent. Even at that point in his life, he doesn't say, I reached the end of my journey and I'm certainly going into paradise. He says, Lord, give me the tawfiq to die as a Muslim, وَالْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ, and join me with the righteous people. Therefore, self-assessment becomes an important part of our journey. And as believers, we must always be assessing ourselves, taking a pulse of our faith, taking a pulse of our character, and asking ourselves, do we have the faith that we need to have? Now, I do have to make one clarification here, because sometimes our Christian friends will ask us, therefore, are you certain about Islam? And are you not certain about your religion? That this religion is the right path? And I say to them, by God, I'm certain. I'm certain that there is no God but one God. And I'm certain that the Holy Prophet is the Prophet of God. And I'm certain these are my moral and ethical obligations that I have to carry out in my life. I am certain that this is the path. What I doubt is whether I am on the path or I am not on the path. I claim to have faith, but do I truly have faith in my heart? Or do I not have faith in my heart? I claim to believe in the Prophet, but I have never been tested in my claim whether I believe in the Prophet or not. Do I truly have that faith or not? I claim that I am a good person, that I'm honest and I'm truthful, but truly in my heart and my character, am I honest? Am I truthful? So self-assessment becomes a very important tool. The seventh holy Imam, Al-Imam Al-Kadhim alayhi afdal as-salati was-salam, he says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يُحَاسِبْ نَفْسَهُ. He is not one of us who does not take account of himself. Not just an account of his deeds, but an account of his character, an account of his faith. The key to self-assessment is honesty. This is the most important point that I want to make for tonight. If we are going to assess ourselves, let us be honest with ourselves. If I'm not doing something right, let me have the courage to admit it to myself that I'm not doing something right. Because what normally happens is that when we are honest to ourselves, وَأَلْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. But instead throw him into the depth of the well. And they say to themselves, at least we're not killing him. Look at us. We could have killed him. At least we're not killing him. Sometimes maybe when I go to sleep, I may say to myself, well, yes, I did. At least I did. I'm an orphan. At least I'm not like that person. What a bad person he is. I'm not as bad as that person. And that person has become now a standard in my life. And I have got a feel-good attitude about myself. And what else did they do? And they say, وَتَكُونُ مِنْ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. After you put him into the depths of the well, after that you are going to become a righteous community. What does that mean? It means that it's a one-time thing only. We're only going to do this once. We're not going to do it again. So sometimes a person may say to himself, I just want to try it. I'm not being an immoral person. I want to do it once. I want to know how bad it is so that I don't do it again, for example. That's a feel-good attitude about ourselves. The ability to be honest to ourselves. Ask yourself, if somebody else made the same excuse or justification, would you accept it? As long as we have a feel-good attitude, reading a book, it's called Feel Good Curriculum. Dumbing down in the they're raised in the schools with the or elementary school, even if you don't put effort in good about that. Their work, they hadn't done their assignment, they hadn't completed their assignment, they hadn't done it properly, and yet they about themselves. College, they may feel good about themselves, but they will not have developed the expertise, the skills, and the knowledge base that they need to be successful. They would not have developed anything. Of morality, wanting to feel good about ourselves, at the end of our lives, we may feel good about ourselves, but we will not have developed morality. We have not have developed good character. One of the characteristics of the companions of the Holy Prophet is that they weren't perfect people. Even some of the companions whom we look up to today, they weren't ma'soom. And sometimes they used to make mistakes. And sometimes there were things which were hidden in their Prophet of Allah. Right? But the key to those companions is that whenever they realized that they were doing something wrong, they had the honesty to admit it to themselves. And they had the integrity to change their ways, to reform themselves. I want to share with you a story about one of the companions of the Holy Prophet. The companion that I don't think there is anybody here who doesn't one of the closest companions of the Holy Prophet. And we're told that one day he lent some money to Bilal. And Bilal took a loan from him. So after a while he went to Bilal and said, Bilal, it's time to pay for your loan. And Bilal says, I don't have the money. I'll pay it to you later. So he goes to him a second time. He goes to him a third time. By the fourth or fifth time, he is frustrated. So when he's frustrated, he comes to Bilal. And he says to him, Yabna Sawda, son of a black woman. That was a racist statement. Okay. And Bilal heard that, and he didn't say anything. And he went to the Prophet of Allah, and he said, your companion today, this is what he said to me. So the next time this companion goes to the Holy Prophet, the Prophet is not talking to him. The Prophet is not looking at him. He says, Ya Rasulullah, what have I done wrong that you don't want to talk to me? So the Prophet of Allah said to him that you are talking to Bilal. أَعَيَّرْتَهُ عَلَىٰ أَمْرِ أُمِّهِ. You found a defect in him because of the color of the skin of his mother? The Prophet of Allah had taught them that we are all equal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that moment, this companion did not make excuses. He didn't say, as I may have said, that Bilal was frustrating me. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to find a defect in him. I was just trying to get him to pay his loan back to me. He said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, I made a mistake. And he went to Bilal and said, Ya Bilal, I'm putting my cheeks on the ground. I'm putting my face on the ground. And I want you to step on my face so that I learn my lesson, not to repeat something like this ever in my life. And Bilal said to him, oh, so and so, you don't have to do that. I accept your apology. This is not something that is necessary. And he said, no, you have to do it for me to learn my lesson. Therefore, in this path of spiritual development, we need to be able to assess ourselves. But if we want to assess ourselves, let us have the courage to be Which brings us to our third question for tonight. And that is, how do we know our character? How do we distinguish between our behavior and our character? Have the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam given us certain milestones? Have they given us a litmus test by which I can know what has become a part of my character and what has not become a part of my character? So I want to share with you a hadith from the 6th Imam. And the 6th Imam says in this hadith, عَلَامَاتُ الْمُؤْمِنِ خَمْسَةٌ. The signs of a mu'min are 5. Before I share with you the signs of a mu'min, you will notice that a mu'min, according to the 6th Imam, is not known by his manner of dressing. That if he wears Islamic clothes like what I am wearing, then he is a mu'min. And if he doesn't wear these clothes, then he is not a mu'min. Yes, there's an expectation of modesty, there's an expectation of hijab, but otherwise, clothing does not make a believer. He's not known by the length of his beard or by the shortness of his beard. Of course, it is expected, according to many maraj of taqleed, based on ihtiyat wajib, that he's going to keep a beard that is visible to others. But that is for the purpose of identity. He's also not known by his rituals. He may pray and he may fast. By itself, it doesn't make him a person who has faith in his heart. Fasting is obligatory. Prayer is obligatory. In fact, in the hadith, the Prophet of Allah says a person who doesn't pray is standing at the edge of kufr, at the edge of disbelief. Right? But by itself is not an indicator of faith in the heart. The Imam also says, the mu'min is not known by his character in normal circumstances. Because in normal circumstances, everybody can have a good character. The hadith says a mu'min is known by his character in abnormal circumstances. So, alamatul mu'min khamsa. The sign of a believer are 5. The first one, al-wara' fil khalwa. He is God-wary in privacy. His behavior in public and his behavior in private is the same. His behavior in the community and his behavior at home is the same. You will not see him kind in the community and then unkind at home. Now let me put this hadith in context for you. Privacy here does not mean that there is nobody around. It means even when there's no one important to you around, you still have the same behavior. One of the tests that we can take of ourselves is to ask ourselves that my behavior in the presence of someone rich and the presence of someone poor, is it the same or is it different? My behavior in the presence of somebody who's important in the community and somebody who's not important in the community, is it the same or is it different? Sometimes it's very practical and simple tests. When you get a phone call and it's from somebody from somebody whom you don't think is important, do you still respond in the same manner? Are you still excited to answer that phone in the same way? That maybe just as this person may need me, even this person may also need me as well. God-wariness in privacy. 1. 2, the Imam says, وَالصَّدَقَةِ فِي الْقِلَّةِ To give sadaqah, not when you have a lot, but to be able to give sadaqah even when you have a little. Now before I go into explaining this one, we should mention over here that we have an obligation to provide for our family. It's not mustahab to provide for the family, for the men. It is wajib to provide for the family. And to provide an average lifestyle for them. Giving sadaqah may be recommended. Taking care of the family is wajib. But let's say I've taken care of the family. And I've got some money left over. Am I willing to make lifestyle changes in order to help those who are in need or not? As-sadaqah fil qillah, giving charity, even when it hurts to give charity. 3. Was-sabru 'inda al-musibah, to be patient in moments of difficulty. Sometimes it may be in my life that certain privileges were denied from me. I was expecting that they were going to give me a promotion, I didn't get a promotion. I was expecting to close a deal, I was able to close a deal. Right? I was expecting to get a particular piece of technology, that's a privilege, I didn't get it, so I was patient. The Imam says, that's not the test of your patience. That is not the test of your character. When you face hardships and calamities, when you don't have a job, when you're facing health problems, there can you be patient? Or are you not patient at that time? Patience also doesn't mean that a person doesn't pray to God. Patience just means that a person doesn't question the wisdom and the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3, patience in moments of difficulty. 4, the Imam says, وَالْحِلْمُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ, and to be forbearing when you are angered. Because people will say the darnest of things, right? Especially when they are members of your family, they know exactly what to say to wind you up and to make you angry. Right? So when you are angry, there can you be forbearing? There can you still be kind to that person? Or there are you going to be immoral with that person? And the last one the Imam says was صِدْقُ عِنْدَ الْخَوْفِ, and to be truthful when you are afraid, meaning that you are afraid of losing some of your interests. These are some ways for us to know whether we have developed character or we still have a long way to go. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, from tomorrow night, we will start to talk about some social, ethical responsibilities that we have. In particular, over the next 3 nights, I'd like to talk about poverty and our responsibility towards uprooting poverty as a community. I'd like to talk about racism and the racial divide within communities and societies, and what does Islam say about that. And finally, I'd like to talk about political engagement and what does political engagement mean for the Muslim community. Inshallah, if God gives us tawfiq. For tonight, we want to take our hearts once again to Karbala, to the shrine of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. And tonight we are remembering Qasim ibn al-Hassan and Abdullah ibn al-Hassan. So imagine yourself tonight either in Jannatul Baqi near the shrine of Imam al-Hassan, or in Karbala, in Jannatul Baqi near the grave of Imam al-Hassan, or in Karbala near the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. And let us call out to Imam al-Hussein together. Ya Aba Abdillah, Ya Hussein ibn Ali, Ayyuha al-Shaheed, Ya ibn Rasulillah, Ya Hujjat Allahi ala khalqih, Ya Sayyidana وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا لنا Can I not cry when I see the suffering that you are going through? Al-Hassan said to him, لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. There is no day like your day, O Abu Abdullah. The Imam said to him that 30,000 people who call themselves Muslims will surround you in the plains of Karbala. They will want to kill you and shed your blood, and they will want to take your women and children as prisoners. The day you always wanted to protect Imam al-Hussein. They were very loyal to Imam al-Hussein. On that night before the day of Ashura, when Imam al-Hussein had turned off the candles and the companions had expressed loyalty to Aba Abdullah, at that time the Imam, each and every one of them, in the plains of Karbala, all of you are going to be. Man comes to al-Hussein, oh my dear uncle, will I also be martyred in Karbala? This was Qasim, the son of Imam al-Hassan. By certain accounts, he was only 13 years of age, and he said to the Imam, will I also be martyred tomorrow on the plains of Karbala? And before the Imam can answer his question to him, he says to him, my dear Qasim, how do you find death? When you think of death, how do you think of death? And in Qasim ibn al-Hassan says to the Imam, أحلى من العسل, it is sweeter than honey from me. It is sweeter than honey for me. And the Imam says to him, yes, my dear Qasim, tomorrow you shall be martyred in the plains of Karbala. According to some of the narrators, they say, the Imam said to him that even Ali al-Asghar will be martyred tomorrow in the plains of Karbala. And Qasim may have asked the Imam, how will he be martyred? Will they come into the camp? Will they come to martyr him? And the Imam may have said to him, no, my dear Qasim, I will take Ali al-Asghar to the plains of Karbala, seeking a little bit of water for him, and they will respond to me with an arrow. On the next day, the day of Ashura, when the companions of Imam al-Hussein had been martyred, the family members of al-Hussein came to him. And one by one they were seeking permission to go to the field of battle. And Qasim ibn al-Hassan would come to the Imam, and the Imam would turn him away, and he would come again, and the Imam would turn him away again. And after a while the narrator says, فَلَمْ يَزَلِ الْغُلَامِ يُقَبِّلُ يَدَيْهِ ورجليه حتى أذن له. The young man started to hold on to the hands of the Imam. He would kiss the hands of the Imam. He held on to the feet of the Imam until the Imam permitted him to go to the field of battle. So the narrator says he rode upon a horse and he was wearing an amama and he was holding a sword in one hand and the straps of his slippers were torn on one of his feet, and as he was leaving كأنه شقة قمر, he was like a new crescent. When Qasim entered, imagine this. If they had not known that he was the son of Imam al-Hassan, maybe they would have shown mercy upon him. But when Qasim entered, he said to them, إِن تَنْكِرُونِي فَأَنَا نَجْلُ الْحَسَنِ فَأَنَا ابْنُ الْحَسَنِ سِبْطُ النَّبِيِّ الْمُصْطَفَى وَالْمُؤْتَمَنِ. If you don't know me, then I am the son of Al-Hassan. Al-Hassan is the son and grandson of Rasulullah. هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصقوا صوب المزان. He said to them, this is Hussein who has been surrounded by you. Between a people, may the rain not fall upon them. And then Qasim fought bravely on the plains of Karbala. He defended Imam al-Hussein. He protected Imam al-Hussein. But alas, one of the enemies said that I will make his mother mourn for him. And someone said to him, why do you have to do that? The other people will take care of him. He said, no, I must make his mother mourn for him. And as Qasim was passing by next to him, he struck on the forehead of Qasim and he fell to the plains of Karbala. And he called out to Imam al-Hussein, Ya Amma adrikni, my dear uncle, come to my aid. The narrator says Imam al-Hussein came out of his tent and he ran out to the plains of Karbala like a falcon comes out, and he fought bravely and he pushed the enemies back. But by the time he had reached the body of Qasim, he saw Qasim struggling on the plains of Karbala. The young man was hitting his knee so hard on the ground of Karbala. He was pounding at the ground of Karbala because of the suffering that he had. Imam al-Hussein sat down next to him and he said to him, Ya Qasim, Azza wallahi ala ammi. It is so hard on your uncle, and tad'uhu fala yujibu, that you call out to him, but he's not able to answer you, or that when he answers you, he's not able to help you. And he said, Oh Qasim, on this day my friends are few. And it is also narrated that Imam al-Hussein took hands, but Karbala, he seemed to have called out, Ama min nasirin yansuruna. Is there no one to help Hassan, who was in the hands, who was holding the hands of Lady Zainab? He ran out to the battlefield and he stood between Imam al-Hussein and the enemies of Imam al-Hussein, and he said, are you going to hurt my uncle? And as the this young son, who was even younger than Qasim, put his hands up, and the enemy chopped off the hands of Abdullah ibn al-Hassan. He fell into the hands of Imam al-Hussein. He fell onto the chest of Imam al-Hussein, and he said, oh my dear uncle, look at what they have done to me. At that time Imam said to him, be patient Abdullah, be patient my سيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. مات الحسين. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين
صد پاش بدن ہو گیا یوں ابن حسن کا ایک ایک وضو خاک پہ بکھرا تھا بدن کا پامال بدن کس طرح مولا نے اٹھایا شبیر نے یوں لاشِ قاسم کو اٹھایا قاسم کو اٹھایا ماں خیمے میں بیٹھی رہی امید لگائے کب لوٹ کے میدان سے لختے جگر آئے جب لختے جگر آیا تو منہ کو جگر قاسم کو اٹھایا اولاد بڑے بھائی کی تھی جان سے پیاری جانے لگی جب دشت میں قاسم کی سواری شبیر نے ماں کی طرح سینے سے لگایا شبیر نے یوں لاشِ قاسم کو اٹھایا پوشاک جو پہنائی تھی ارمانوں سے ماں نے دیکھی وہی پوشاک لہو رنگے جہاں نے ایک شب کا بنا خون میں اس طرح نہایا قاسم کو اٹھایا صد پاش بدن ہو گیا یوں ابن حسن کا ایک ایک عضو خاک پہ بکھرا تھا بدن کا پامال بدن کس طرح سکای یتیمانم بگونی شو بیارم من آب نمیخوام
عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام صدای شهیدانم من آب نمیخوام
عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام سکای شهیدانم من آب نمیخوام
عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام صدای شهیدانم من آب نمیخوام
برگرده عمو جانم از هجر تو بیمارم ای نور تو چشمانم من آب نمیخوام
عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام صدای شهیدانم من آب نمیخوام
ام جوان من ای روح روان من در تو بحال من آب نمیخوام
عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام عباس عمو جانم من آب نمیخوام صدای شهیدانم من آب نمیخوام
شهید کربلا و ویلا
شهید کربلا و ویلا
چی شد و ویلا
شهید کربلا و ویلا
دوباره نوجوان چی شد و ویلا
شهید کربلا و ویلا
ویلا ویلا
ویلا و ویلا
حسین
ویلا و ویلا
مظلوم ویلا
ویلا و ویلا
حسين
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين करबला ये तो बता करबला करबला ये तो बता करबला सरहद में तेरी क्यों कर हुआ करबला करबला ये तो बता करबला करबला ये तो बता एक मुसाफिर आया था तेरे यहाँ किसका जाना था रसूले दो जहां
सके ताकत नहीं करबला ये तो बता करबला ये तो बता जुल्म सरहद में तेरी क्यों कर हुआ करबला ये तो बता
السلام عليك يا عباد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفناي عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر عهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا سهل وسب الزمان الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا